Hi, Cat's Cradle here. About a week ago I showed you some pictures of my raspberries and how beautifully they have set on, and I'm just so surprised because you'll remember earlier this year in the spring I showed you how destroyed they were by the Japanese beetles, but they've bounced back. These are ever-bearing raspberries, and so they're blooming again for the second time during the year. It's very early for them to come on. They usually don't do this until the end of September, 1st of October, but everything's been early this year. So as I looked out my back door today, I saw some raspberries and thought I'd go pick them. There wasn't really enough to do anything with except to eat with my breakfast. The picture here doesn't do them justice. I had the back door open. You can't even see the pattern on my bowl, which is usually easy to see when I photograph it, but the back door was open and so much light was coming in that it makes these raspberries look pink. They're not. They're very, very deep red to burgundy color, and they were absolutely delicious. And I'm so thrilled to have them because we're in the middle of the worst drought ever, and my raspberries are still beautiful and succulent and full. Probably not quite as big as they would be if we would have been having regular rain, but they tasted delicious for my breakfast, and I'm grateful for it. Now, I don't have enough to can, but as I was eating them, it reminded me, and as I was thinking about canning raspberry jam, hopefully I'll get enough to be able to do that, it reminded me of something that I have wanted to mention to you several times and just have forgotten to do it. Here is the rack that came with my pressure canner, and as you can see, it holds 7 quart jars, 6 around the outside and 1 in the center. But I hate this rack. Even if I take it out of my canner as soon as I'm through canning and don't leave it in the water, it still rusts, even though I dry it off and I scrape it off, and it never looks any better. This is the rack I prefer. And if you have a large pressure canner, I advise you to have 2 of them. One that the jars sit on the very bottom of the canner with, and then another one to put on top of those jars in case you want to double decker them and do a lot of jars at one time. It just lays down in the water like this, and it works great, and it doesn't rust, and it's just never a problem. Now, if you don't have one of these, you can still can. You have to keep your jars off of the bottom of the canner, so another way to do that is to just drop a dish towel in there. I'm doing this one-handed, so I can't really spread it out like I should, and it's a little difficult. It wants to float in the water at first. But you just press it down to cover the bottom of your canner, and then you can put your jars on that and can safely. You just don't want your jars to be in direct contact with the bottom of the pressure canner. You can see I'm pointing to a line, kind of a dark line in there. You can see pretty much where my water level comes. I can very close to this wall. You can see the arrow there. That's where you put the lid on to make sure that it's locked. But because the lighting isn't really good under my stove, and because I wear bifocals, I have trouble seeing where the water line is supposed to come when I look inside the canner. So what I did with a very sharp knife is just to etch this line on the outside of my pressure canner, and when I fill that canner with cold water to begin with, I can easily feel with my fingers where the water level is and if it is up to that line. Now, I always do it just a little below that, because once you put your jars in, it's going to raise that level just a little bit, and it's not an exact science as to where the water has to be. So if you're a little off, that's great. Your water in a pressure canner certainly should not be covering the jars, but if you etch this little line in your canner, it's really easy to know if you're about at the right spot or not. Anyway, hope this helps you out. Cat's Cradle.